Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another OTR news broadcast. And then we're going to follow it on by the start of stage 6 of the Tour Du Alpes. So, what's been happening over the weekend? Well, we've had a busy weekend where we saw both Daniel Cadiz and John Beams, the current leaders in the Tour Du Alpes, taking part in the King of the Castle competition. And Cadiz, who won that competition, well, he came second actually. He beat John Beams. We had an unknown rider taking first place, but Daniel Cadiz came in a close second, and John Beams about 25, I think, seconds behind. So, yeah, it was a pretty good race, but can that be like a guide to what's going to happen today later in today's stage? We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, the stage standings, the tour standings as they are at the moment is that John Beams has a 4 minute and 52 seconds lead coming into stage 6 today. And that's going to be pretty key because that's a nice gap to have. He lost, what was it, 25 seconds on the last stage on Friday when Daniel managed to finish in front of him. But to be honest, I think John had done as much as he could and closed the gap. And I don't see him relinquishing that first place very easily. Daniel is going to have to work really hard to overcome a 4 minute and 52 second lead. So we'll see what happens. But I think today's stage is going to be pretty key. There's going to be a few battles going on. Cadiz in second has to watch his place from Krajewski chasing in third, and then Krajewski has to watch his third place from the chasers behind. So it should make for an interesting stage, and that's all going to kick off at 7 o'clock tonight. Now, I don't know who's signed up for this lunchtime session. I can cover the start. I can't cover the whole race, but I can cover the start and we'll see it kick off and see exactly who's signed up for it. But my guess is that the main contenders are all going to be taking part in this evening's competition, which is 7 o'clock my time, 6 o'clock PM UK or GMT time. Okay, so the podium at the moment is led by John Beams, as I say, with a 4 minute 52 second lead. And then we have Daniel Cadiz in second place and Krajewski in third place. Now that's going to be, I think, taken into today's stage. I don't see that changing. I think it's the kind of stage. Let's see if we can pull up the picture for you and show you. Let's have a look. There we go. So hopefully you're seeing what I'm seeing, and you can see from, let's just pull this up full screen so that I can actually read it. We've got a 1,124 meters of climbing, so a fairly big amount of climbing. But you've got that long downhill in the middle, which is going to give riders some recovery. So the way I see this stage panning out is that the riders will try and gap each other on this first climb, and then possibly we could see a coming together before it actually goes up and into the second climb, shorter climb. But there's a fair amount of climbing there, so we'll see what happens. The average grade being 7%. 22 kilometers in length, so we're looking at for the leaders, I would say over the hour. We might get the odd one coming in underneath, but I would have thought this is going to be over an hour of effort. Now at the moment, let's pull up, let's see if we can find that. Let's close this down for a moment and see if we can pull up the RGT DB results page. and see what happened in the 7 o'clock running this morning, because I believe a rider called Yo Mama, don't know his real name, but let's see if we can pull, let's have a look, newsroom, and where are we, website links. Yep, there we go. Let's see if we can pull this up and find, there we go, got it. Come on, IGT, there we go, we got it. So if I just transition this across to you folks, you should be seeing this on screen now. And you can see that the, I won't pull up the, well, I will. I'll pull up the 0100 running, which is the midnight running. And there you can see Yo Mama set the fastest time with a 1 hour and 10 minute 20-second ride. But I'll be honest, I would expect that to be obliterated by the riders following on, either in this next ride, depending on who turns up, or certainly in this evening's ride when the likes of Cadiz, Krajewski and Beams are taking part. This is not going to stand. It's a good time, but that's going to get beaten by the leading riders. And here we go. Now then, let's turn on the audio so that we can hear the... there we go. We've got the crowd cheering, and let's spin the camera around. Whoops, why have we got... hopefully we've got something on screen. Yes, we have. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so... here we go, folks. Let's have a look and see. We've got 18 riders on the line, and let's spin it round. Two OTR riders, one of them's me obviously, but who's the other one? Mr. Byam. We've got a Team 3R rider. Can I see who that is? Is that? No, I can't quite make out who the Team 3R rider is. And we've just had another 2 more joining, so yeah, it's filling up nicely. This is a nice, this is going to be a nice run-off. Now you can see from the profile, it more or less kicks off straight into climbing. Yes, gentle for the start, but they're still going uphill. They've still got a 4% slope to start with. And then it eases off slightly, but then starts to kick up into the red. And this is definitely going to thin down the field. But apart from Sonderg, who I can see in the start list, I don't think, and I'm not doing a disservice to anybody here folks, but I don't think there's any of the main contenders. And even Sonberg won't mind me admitting that he's not going to be up there amongst the leaders in the final standings. So we haven't really got any of the big hitters taking part yet in this event, but with 20, in fact I've got to jump on the turbo to spin the pedals, so I'm going to do that now. And 12 seconds to go, so I'll start spinning the pedals. Hopefully they'll show up on my end, and that will get me past the start line. I can feel it because it's a 4%er. There we go, get past the start line, and then I can climb off and commentate. Okay, and we might even be able to switch on the studio camera, and you can look at my lovely features as I commentate on the race. Okay, let's go to the front, and we've got Gallagher pushing 5.7 kilos and trying to make a break for it, an early break. Now you can see the steepness there as we pan back to him behind, but I think this may well come back together until we get to the first part of the real climbing. So we'll watch this and see what happens. Let's see if I can turn on the RGT live. Where are we? Have we got the... Let's transition that across and then we should get the camera. Yeah, there I am. So here we go, folks. As I say, we've got Gallagher pushing a 54-meter gap, so I'm going to spin around again, see if we can watch the group behind him as well. And Weston's a good rider from SDW, so he's leading the chasing pack. We've got Miller there as well, Newnham, Sonderg. So yeah, there's some good riders chasing this one, and what we got 10 riders all together in the chasing group. But because it's going uphill right at the very start, and in fact they're pulling him back now as it starts to get a bit steeper. And one of the tactics, excuse me, which I explained in earlier broadcast, is that larger riders, and perhaps Gallagher is a larger rider, but larger riders will generally push off from the start of an event like this to try and get a little bit of distance prior to hitting the main climbs, because they realise that they're going to be overtaken by the pure climbers pretty soon once the real climbing starts. So you generally get many of the better all-rounders or many of the bigger riders trying to push off the front early in these kind of stages. I'm not saying that's what's happening here. I mean, this fellow is putting out, some big watts here. And he's not even going into threshold, so he must either be a very, very fit and good rider, but he's maintaining over 5 watt kilos here without a break, which is top level riding. With your slope at 6.7% and showing no sign of weakening. Let's go back and check on the field behind. So we got the German Persk chasing him. He's putting out 4.8 watt kilos. 150, in fact, that's something I didn't do. 163 heart rate from Gallagher. So I'd just like to check, and Persk is up to 160. So he's putting in a big effort to chase. What I want to do is I want to keep an eye on Gallagher's watt kilos and see how long he manages to maintain that over 5 watt kilos. He's currently been over 5 watt kilos for 4 minutes now, and that's pro level riding. Thornberg, he's a good rider. We've seen a lot of him in the tour so far. Gray. And I'm not even going to try and pronounce this name. What country is he from? Have a look. See if we can... Oh, that's Turkey. So the rider from Turkey, we'll call him Y. He's putting in a threshold effort. And then you've got Orbia. We've covered Lee before, Lee Orbia. He's the ambassador for Orbia UK. And then Mr. Weston. Again, another rider that we've covered quite a bit. I'll just go back to the front. Still over 5.5 watt kilos. Mr. Newnham. And a nice little group. Taylor, Miller, Uru, and the OTR rider Byham. They'll still be settling in here. It's early days yet, so they'll be settling into a nice pace. And this is, I think, our second place rider. This is Alyssa Ellis. She's in second place overall on GC. So hoping to either consolidate or even improve her position going in one of the earlier races. Here's Art. Philippe the Master. I take it that's what the M means. And this is another one of the ladies. This is, I think it's Anne Y. Yes, it is. It's Anne Y. So Anne is, I think she's currently in third place on the GC. Now I can see Evan is on the start line, but hasn't started. So whether Evan's just come along to have a look or not, I don't know, or whether he did intend starting and he's having technical issues. But if I go to myself, Evan will probably be, is he in sight of me or not? Or is he still back there on the line? Can't see him, so don't know. Let's go back to the start. And 7 minutes and 35 seconds and still pushing over 5 watt kilos. Now, I'm very, very loath to call out riders, especially after I suggested that Hedidam in my early days of commentating possibly wanted to look at his settings, but didn't realise what a strong rider Hedidam was. That he is a particularly strong rider and he's a well-known rider. I don't know this rider at all, but the kind of figures he's putting out here, over 5 watt kilos without dropping below, without going into the red. I mean, I don't know what his threshold is, but I'm not going to call this, but I'll let you guys decide what you think about it. But this is pro level stuff. 8 minutes without dropping at all under 5 watt kilos. Let's see how long he maintains that. Okay, let's find another rider. So Persk has gone clear in second place. And look at his heart rate. So this fellow is putting in genuine efforts here as he goes into the red on this steeper section, this 16% section. So he's putting in a real effort here. You can tell that from his heart rate. His heart rate has climbed from 160 to 172, which is the kind of thing you'd expect when somebody goes from sort of like, you know, a hard pace to a above threshold. And he's climbing all the time. So it's pretty obvious that he's really putting in a big effort here. And his heart rate should drop as a little as he drops the wattage, but 178 there. So that tells me that this is the genuine article. And a really good effort. So he's maintaining second place on the road at the moment. As we get into 10 minutes at over 5 watt kilos with the leader. Okay. Thunderg, another rider that we've covered quite extensively, another Dane, along with Hedidam, and this lad is a good rider. I'd expect him to be up the front, but as I say, I don't think he's going to be challenging for the general classification top 3 spots, but he's going to be up there in the final run of things. It'll be interesting to see how the wattage being put out now by these riders compares with the wattage put out later on tonight when we get the really big hitters going for it. And they will go for it on this first climb, there's no doubt about it. I think we'll see Daniel Cadiz try to break John Beams. on this first section of climbing. So we'll see what happens. And this is the chasing pack. So we've got Lee from Orbea pulling along a small group of himself, YO and Gray, as they just get onto this slightly easier section, and then it's going to kick up again. So it's just work his way backwards. Western 60 odd meters behind. But as I say, it's too early yet to call positioning. I mean, this top 10 is going to change around. There's no two ways about it, because there's a lot more climbing to go. And some of the riders will be finding the legs, pacing themselves. And then, once they've got into a nice steady rhythm, we could well see them changing positions. So got another 3 riders together here. So we had 3 riders in front of them, and these 3 riders here all riding together. I think with 1 rider stuck in the middle, so Miller and Sanchez. Uru from Japan, he's just pushing his own pace, 180 meters behind, so he's just going to settle into his own pace and see where that gets him, see whether he can claw back some of the distance to the riders in front. But basically what happens on this type of a climb is riders just try to find their own pace, their own cadence, what they're happy with. I mean, this is a lovely cadence. 90 revs a minute is nice heart rate, steady at 160, 159. So yeah, this is a steady effort from Huru, and that's what you need when you're doing this kind of event. My teammate Mr. Byam, another rider that rides at a high cadence. You can see 98, 99. So he likes his high cadence. It keeps his heart rate relatively stable at around the 150 mark. And then on the really steep 14% section, we've got Alyssa Ellis, working really hard with a nice, for such a steep slope, she's got a nice cadence going. And looking good, I have to say, looking good. You've got Anne chasing her, Anne Y chasing her, and Philippe, the master. Now, maybe these two will use each other's wheels just to sort of like try and hang on to each other. Or maybe Anne will prove a little bit too strong. I don't know. That's good wattage. I mean, look at that wattage. 3.6 from Anne Y, which is higher by about a watt kilo than what Alyssa's putting out in front of her. So you never know. She could come back. 195 meters to catch. That's not beyond the realms of possibility. As she drops Philippe. And then we got Haysart. That's the ZMS camera. And there's Evan, who has actually started now. He's done 1.46, but I don't know what Evan's doing here. Whether he's just having a look at the course for later on in the day, or whether he's genuinely wanting to take part but having issues, I don't know. Anyway, let's go back to the front. And our man is 15 minutes in and still pushing over 5 watt kilos. So I'm sorry, but I am going to call this. This is not a true effort, folks. And I'm calling it. I don't care whether I get stick for that or not. This is not a true effort. Riders of this caliber do not put in 15 minutes of over 5 watt kilos. I'm sorry, but it just doesn't happen. And it will be interesting to see actually what time he puts in and how that affects the overall for today. He's certainly not on GC. In fact, I think it's the first time we've seen him, Gallagher. So let's see if we can find out anything about him. Go to the RGT. Well, let's Have we got any nice groups on this climbing? Can I turn? There we go. Let's have these riders climbing the climb while I go off and have a look at the RGT DB website. See what we can find out about that rider. That's just insane. Don't get me wrong, somebody putting out 5 watt kilos is nothing special, but somebody putting out 5 watt kilos steady without dropping underneath, and he never even looks like dropping underneath 5 watt kilos. Not once has he gone below 5, and that tells me there's something a little bit dodgy. Because you would expect a rider to have to ease off slightly. Like I said, we're going up to 17 minutes now at 5.3, and that's pro level riding. So let's see if we can find him and see what other results we've had. Sign-ups. We got him here. Can't even find him on the list, which he's not even on the list of sign-ups, folks. Ah, he is. Elba Gallagher. There we go. Okay, so he won the Napoleon Dolomite race. Not really recognised riders taking part in that. So let's go back. Didn't finish in the Kingdom of the Castle. TNT Omnium Sprint. Oh, look at that. And according to this, he's a silver grade rider. So he's a silver grade rider. But yeah, average watt kilos in the Omnium. Average. This is average watt kilos, folks. 11.16 average watt kilos. So, okay, I'm not going to hammer the point. You decide whether this is a genuine effort or not. And for the first time, I saw him drop to 4.9, and that's after 19 minutes, and he's gone back over 5 again. So he briefly dropped at the 19-minute point. He briefly dropped under 5 watt kilos. Anyway, enough. Let's go and check on some of the other riders. We watch Lee from Orbea on the road. Where's Persk? He's 250 meters behind. I mean, this is a good ride, and this is a strong ride, and he's putting out over 5 watt kilos. But then you can see that he goes into the red, and then his watt kilo drops. Now, this is what I would expect to see. I would expect to see watt kilos when he's really pushing the pedals rise quite steeply above the 5 mark, but then drop down below as he's settling into his pace. Whereas Gallagher's pace is not changing at all in terms of his watt kilos. He's stuck on 5 and he sticks on 5. Anyway, I think I've hammered that point home enough. One of the things which I'm working on behind the scenes is I'm actually doing a little bit of featurette, shall we say. I'm going to make a bit of a documentary on e-racing and the ways in which riders can game the system, because I've a lot of knowledge in how, well, basically how to cheat in these virtual platforms. I know how easily and how it is done. I know how easily data can be manipulated. I know how easily a lot of trainers can be manipulated to give higher watts. And this is why I'm very keen on asking riders to verify themselves. I did an article on this in one of my earlier broadcasts. There's two websites riders can go to verify themselves. There's a Facebook group, and then there's the BioPassport website. They can get a webcam and put a webcam on and show their performances. We generally look at their heart rates to see what's happening with the heart rates and this lot. But I am going to be doing kind of like a documentary where I do a lot more research into riding on the virtual platforms. And we're going to be having a look at some of the riders. I mean, some of the very best riders on the e-platforms have verified themselves. There's no question that they are legitimate, have taken part in national and international competitions. But there are a lot of riders out there who refuse to verify themselves, who don't, they turn up and they don't bother to show their credentials. And I think that needs highlighting more. It's a subject, folks, that a lot of people don't want to know. They don't want to hear it. They don't want somebody overturning the stone. Because there is a lot of it goes on. There's a lot of height and weight changing goes on. And there's a lot of miscalibration, deliberate miscalibration. I'm not saying it's rife on RGT. It certainly is on Swift. And I don't care if they call me out again. I called this out many years ago on Swift. I actually bought a Stages power meter, and within a couple of weeks I worked out how to game it and how to increase my wattage by 100 watts with the Stages. So I promptly sold it because I'm not a cheat. I never have been. I've never been good enough to be a cheat, and I've never wanted to cheat. But I do know how to game the system, and I've also done a fair bit of research on YouTube, which you can do yourselves, to find out how people can manipulate data. And it's not difficult, folks. So yes, I'm sorry to go on about this subject, but it's a subject that's dear to my heart because I hate cheaters and I hate cheating. And therefore, whenever I see something which I think is dodgy, I'm going to call it out. And if I'm wrong, as I was with Hedidam, I'll hold my hand up and say sorry. But I think I have a good clue when I can spot somebody that's gaming the system. And to my mind, I'm calling it because Galaga is definitely gaming in the system. We're 24 minutes into the ride and he's only very, very briefly dropped under 5 watt kilos. He's currently at 5.4. And as I say, he's only dropped for a couple of seconds under 5 watt kilos in 25 minutes. Now that just is not physically possible for a rider unless he's a top pro. Let's catch up with what the riders anyway and what's happening lower down the field. And what time is it? Because I can only cover the first part of this race, folks. So I'm going to have to dash off, pick my my young girl up from school, and then I'll come back a bit later and see if we can't find out what's happened in this stage. It is looking, in fact, as we have a look at Mr. Weston. But let's go back to the front because we're going to discount this fellow as the winner. And so I think Persk has currently got a 600-meter lead on Sonderg. So, and then not far behind Sonderg. Let's have a look how far behind us. Yeah, and 400 meters we've got Lee from Orbea. So those positions with what we've got left to go could change, but I would expect Persk to push on. He's maybe looking good for the win, and I don't think Sonberg is going to be far behind, and Lee. So they're the ones, and in fact, even Gray is not out of it, or Taylor. So anybody within this top, anybody really within the top 10 still has a chance at this early part of the race. I personally think it's going to go to this fella. He's got a 380 meter, but Sonberg is he's on the slope now. He's pulling it back slightly. Pegged at 300 meters, at 310 meters at the moment. So we'll see what happens. I can hang around for a little bit longer, so maybe we will get a result. The stage is not going to finish, but we may get a result. What we got remaining? 40. Let's have a look at the leader. 13 kilometers remaining, so we're about a third of the way in at the moment, just over a third of the way in at the moment. But as I say, Gallagher is now starting to briefly drop under 5 watt kilos, but he's basically maintained 5 watt kilos for 28 minutes, which is just not sustainable for a rider. And it's a shame to see, you know. I really am sad when I see this, because it might be deliberate or it might just be accidental. It might be somebody that's, you know, that's come on new to the platform, doesn't know how to sort his kit out, and it might be a genuine error. Or it could be just deliberate. And that's where the sadness comes in from my point of view. Because many folks know that they're wrong. They know that you know as a rider what you can put out, what you can do. I mean, Sonderg is a known rider. He's a class rider, as is Lee. And you can see from Lee's wattage, he's putting in a big effort here. Strong rider. Gray on the downhill. And Gray's another one of the masters, so he's a tidy rider as well for his age. I mean, on the 11% slope now, so as you see, Taylor just approaching the slope. I think it's Mike Weston, is it? Mike? And there's Sanchez just coming past YO. Miller and Newnham joining forces for the time being. Uru looking strong. That's it for me, folks. I have to go and pick up my young daughter anyway. So what we're going to do is I'll catch up later. I hope you watched the news broadcast, but I'll catch up later with the with this event and find out who took the win. But let's hope that the guy currently pushing off the front either realizes he's miscalibrated or pulls out. And that's it from me. Take care, folks, and I'll see you in the next